Okay, good afternoon or good morning. Look at that. That's a good way to start, isn't it? Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another of our Inside Coach conversations here with Beyond Pulse. I'm absolutely delighted today to be able to welcome Mr. Sean McCafferty. Sean, for those of you who do not know, is the Academy Director here in New Jersey at the New York Red Bulls. So Sean is gracious to giving up his time to join us this morning. Alongside me, Tom Shields, as always, is Mr. Mark Wilson. So we will be driving this conversation, really diving into Sean's life as obviously the Academy Director at one of America's kind of most prestigious and impressive, I guess, academy systems, and one that has had incredible success of promoting players to its first team squad in recent years. So Sean will be diving in and giving us a little bit of insight into his everyday life, and obviously the importance of the process of developing future professionals. So we'll be looking at the importance of coaching and advice to the coaches on the line, and also the culture creation that allows him to achieve that. So without further ado, Sean, thank you ever so much for joining us. I'll just say quickly to the coaches listening, if you have a conversation, a question that you'd like to ask Sean throughout this, please just kind of pop in the chat function. I can either try and unmute you, or obviously myself or Mark will direct your question to Sean throughout this. So Sean, as I said, thank you for sharing your time with us this morning, mate. Really is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, of course. Very much appreciated.
We're very much looking forward to obviously hearing from you and learning from you. Myself and Mark both know that the treat that these guys are in for. So let's start, if we could, Sean, just with a quick background of your story so far. Obviously, you have quite a unique pathway, at least here in the States, to how you got to where you are. So if you could just share a little bit of that with us, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, first and foremost, again, appreciate you, Tom and Mark, having me on. It's always a pleasure chatting with you lads, and this format will, I'm sure, let us dive into some of the details and hopefully some provoking conversations. So thank you. For me, obviously, I came to the United States. I've been 19 years now in the country. I grew up in the north of Ireland, and played in England and Ireland. Very, very, very modest playing career, but kind of fell into coaching maybe by accident a little bit on a working holiday. Came out to visit a friend, and ultimately for me, it was I fell in love with it right away. Just really enjoyed it. I moved over here when I was 22, 23, got into the coaching scene at a big facility in Downingtown in Pennsylvania, United Sports, which was kind of an academy. It's very unique in the region at that time. We pull players from Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. We try to bring all the best players in, and from there kind of grew within a local club, which was Spirit United at the time. As that grew, kind of coaching, working within there in the facility, became a part-time director of coaching, moved on to the full-time director of coaching role. And the club just evolved. We had a joint venture with, I know, Tom, Penn Fusion was created with Spirit United and Westchester United. So we created that club, which I think has done fantastically well, both on the boys and the girls side. Some great staff over there and some good players as well. From there, then the club, we ended up merging with FC Delco, obviously a nationally kind of known club. A lot of pros have come from there, even some MLS, and Benny Olsen played there as well, some MLS head coaches. So from there, again, was in the area for 15 years, loved the area, met my wife there, my kids obviously there, and was just progressing and developing. I was on the Academy Directors course when I got a call from Barca Academy. The owner there, Real Salt Lake, obviously that facility at Casa Grande, if anybody's been there, it's unbelievable. It's a fantastic environment. So no real intention to going anywhere, Tom, but Arizona, I think it was maybe January, didn't sound too bad. So we took a trip out there just to see it. I hadn't been before, and their plans and what they had in store was just impressive. You can't go there and not be impressed with the facilities, the dorms. They were bringing the school on board. So it's, I don't think I've seen a better residency set up in the country, to be totally fair. And so then the kind of icing on the cake was the relationship with FC Barcelona, and the opportunity to learn their methodology, to really kind of, they're going to bring in some technical directors or directors of methodology and really teach us and help us understand it, trickle down to the players. And I can't speak highly enough of my time there. It was 2.5 years, probably shorter than we wanted, to be fair. We loved the West Coast, experiencing something new, not only personally, but as a family. And It's kind of 2.5 years in, we had a little bit of success instantaneously, just with the talent pool that we got, the O1s especially. And from that group, there was probably 3 or 4 pros already. With Julian Narajo at LA Galaxy, Matthew Hoppies at Schalke. Some of the younger players we signed, Caden Clark, came from there. So it's just, again, we got very fortunate with that group, and they kind of put the program on the map. Their first year came third in the country, the playoffs and what have you at the DA. So just really enjoyed it there, and the environment was fantastic. The school was on site. They just started a new partnership with Arizona State University, put a prep school there. So was loving it. But then I got a call from New York Red Bulls, which was, again, you talk about, a dream job and kind of all-encompassing. It was just a phenomenal experience to go through the interview process. It was probably 4 or 5 months going back and forth. Went to Europe, obviously, went to New York, and it just ticked all the boxes. It really ticked all the boxes to get involved at a really progressive club, obviously global club. It was really, getting my wife and the kids back to the East Coast, close to their cousins and family, was important, obviously, as well. So when the offer kind of came along after the long process, it was a no-brainer. And I genuinely mean this. It's surpassed my expectations in every sense since I've been there, and it's just growing, getting better. I've come on with a lot of other people as well, with academy manager, an operational person. So it really made my job. It's the first time I've ever been football specific, and not having to do all of the stuff that I've done in all the other jobs, and obviously, Tom, yourself. But so we were moving in the right direction. It was a really good time to come into the club, and since then we've brought in, which I know you boys know as well, Paul Fernie from the head of scouting standpoint is fantastic, and Kevin Thelwell from Wolves has just joined us as head of sports. So it's just, and then with Chris, John Wolniak, just great people, just an unbelievable culture there. So again, I genuinely mean it when I say it. It surpassed every expectation to this point.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. And obviously, people, as we said, to whom Sean may be a little less familiar, I hope you can hear just from that short kind of and very humble interlude quite how fortunate we are to be able to have a conversation with him today. And Sean, what I love is, it's an eclectic background that blends professional and non-professional, right? You've worn kind of every hat in terms of the environments that you're working in. Obviously now very much in one of the most progressive MLS clubs, but for the club coaches on the line, Sean's obviously, been in your shoes too. So the perspective that he can share as we build through this conversation is something that I think is of tremendous value. So, Sean, I want to start just, many people from the outside looking in will always wonder, what is a day in the life of, an MLS Academy director like? What are you doing? What are primary objectives each day? Can you, how important is it? We've spoke about leading from the front a few times in these types of conversations. Can you explain what it is that the process that you go through day in, day out, with your staff, with the players, and simply if there is such thing as normal, what a normal day looks like for you in Whitney?
Yeah, I mean, listen, myself and Ryan Brooks, the academy manager, came in at the same time. The club made a conscious effort to like I said, to split the role, which is vitally important in my opinion. If you're doing both, it's extremely difficult. So coming in at the same time was great, because we took a look at the number one, the player pool. We noticed right away that rosters were too big. There were too many players that were just not good enough. When we're never going to get minutes. So we did a lot of addition by subtraction in the first 6 months, Tom, to be fair. And that was the most important piece, is we have to get the everyday training environment to the highest level possible. And the scouting system is being revamped, and we're in a great place and getting better. But it certainly wasn't when it first came in, and it was that's what we could control right away. The squad's already picked. We kind of came in late to the position, so that's what we controlled. There was a lot of talent there. And then we just needed to start getting them in the right position, pushing players up, making sure they're challenged, making sure that our top guys were being put in situations of being uncomfortable. And there's no better way than putting them with older players. Obviously, advocating for the top ones to be signed pro. John Tolkien was obviously signed as a 17-year-old to an MLS contract, which is, again, it's always a fantastic achievement for the coaches, and everybody's had a small part to play in that. And then it was identifying who are top talents, who's the best ones. I mean, ultimately, it sounds cliche, but we're in the business of developing individuals. It's not teams and success. Success is not winning. Success is not the league, and it's a byproduct of individuals. So for us, we'll be judged on, are we developing more higher level players? Tyler Adams is the poster boy, and obviously was gone before I came in, but he came through every level, RDS, youth programs, into the academy, and it seems seamless, but he went from second team, first team, and he has to be the normal. He can't be the outlier. We've such the population density, with such diversity. There's no excuses for us not developing more of those types of players. And so it was getting to that point and saying, okay, who are the players with the talent? Who's the players with the right mindset as well? Was massive for us. I feel that way about staff and players. You have to have everybody rowing the same direction. You waste so much time on people that are not. That everything else suffers. So again, the addition by subtraction helped. I brought in a U15 coach, Jonathan Rhodes, who's top level. I knew him from my time in Pennsylvania, so I was able to bring him in, which is great. And the other staff that were there were excellent, and just getting with them and again getting on the same page. But I mean, every day for us, Tom. I mean, we do a four training sessions a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We give the staff off Tuesdays, like stay home, be with your families, eat dinner at a normal time. I'm a massive believer in a balance, especially for people like myself and others that have children. They go to school and you're coaching maybe in the evenings. You're getting back, you're just not seeing them enough. So 4 days a week's enough, and the kids have to also make sure the academics are being taken care of. So for us going in, probably mid-morning, getting in there, Mondays our meetings get scheduled, get set for the week, get everybody on the same page, what we're doing. We kind of, again, Thursday, Friday, have another meeting, make sure we're all set for the weekends. But I mean, we're in there from mid-morning till, probably last session now finishes at 8 o'clock. One of the things we did change, Tom, was the sessions never used to start until 6:30 at night. So they'd be training to these ungodly hours, and we heard traffic this, traffic that. We never trained on a Friday. Like, it's absurd to me that we don't train the day before a game. And so we made some changes and worked with the parents and the families, and just told them the why. Like, this is why we want to do it. This is going to benefit your son, and and we'll help you find solutions, whether it's transportation, whatever that may be. So we got the schedule to a good place where it was 5 o'clock start and a 6:30, and then they're getting home at reasonable hours. And then we want to professionalize the 19s and 17s. We had to professionalize those age groups. Those age groups training at night is just, it's very youth soccer-ish, and we're trying to develop professionals. We need more contact time. We need them to feel as if they're being prepared to be a pro. So Ryan Brooks and the kind of administrative department set up a flexible school schedule. So now the 19s train during the day, which is fantastic for many reasons. Obviously, come in early, we get them, we feed them a lot of more time for video, some position specific, which is huge from our standpoint. And then starting this fall, the 17s are on the same schedule. So now we have the 17s and some of our top talents from 16s and 15s into that mix as well. So it's really given them more opportunities to train with our second team as well, which is, for us, that's how we have to find out, is get them in playing and training with men. So that's our kind of schedule for the week. We're kind of revamping it a little bit to kind of get the older groups that are on the same time as like I said, the second team. So the movement of the players is seamless.
Perfect. Thank you, mate. I'm going to go, you obviously said that you're in the business of developing individuals, and you're going to be judged on the volume of higher quality players, the volume of high quality players that you produce. So my question now to the, more to the coaches specifically that are listening, what do you expect of your staff in order to facilitate that, with regards to session construction, what they're coaching, how they're coaching, environment management? I think anybody that's been fortunate to watch your staff work will stress how important the intensity of the sessions are and the fast-paced nature of everything. But specifically, Sean, I'm curious, as coaches progress, we find often one of the things that separates, maybe novice from elite is the specificity of the information that they're able to present. And maybe that sessions are constructed specifically with a single outcome in mind. And that single outcome for you guys might be to improve, one player in a specific area that you think he might be, he might need to refine in order to make the transition to the pro game. So I'm just curious if you could elaborate a little bit more on that, and talk us through maybe some of the expectations you have from a session delivery or session construction perspective.
Yeah, so we kind of gone through the process of, getting ready for next season. So our Monday was always our position specific, right? It's a first training session after the game. So it's, position specific, sometimes functional with unit. It's really getting into the individual, their development, and kind of game situational things. And, with the older groups, especially with the more staff there, to break into smaller groups. And we even went to the point that moving into this year, we're going to do the same thing on Friday. I mean, game preparation to youth level, if you're really preparing for opponent and using 1 day, 2 days, it's overkill. I mean, the opponents, we have a thing, they don't matter, right? It's, for us, it's not an X's and O's business. It's, can we get these guys, whether it's the forwards finishing on Friday more and just do more individual and again, situational training with them. We've really moved towards, Tom, even when we design the sessions. So our Wednesday and Thursday is philosophy based. It's trying to get them to understand it because they have to play within this philosophy and as they progress. But it's all designed around our top talents. It's the session construction is, if it's, Tom Sheets is a number 10 that we think is a top prospect, then we're doing a lot of breaking lines, finding people in the red zone. And just without anybody else knowing, the session's designed for Tom Sheets. And if it's, again, that can vary even more than one top talent in a group, which we should have, then that can vary from day to day. But the focus is on the construction of the session. The outcome should be the continued and accelerated development of our top players. We can move them up, which is great, and that challenges them. But our coaches have really bought into listen, it's tough, but you're not judged on wins and losses. Like, nobody will be progress or be fired because of wins and losses. If you're moving up a top talent, you have a really talented 06 that came in the 14s and, right away bumped up to the 15s. Success, right? And let's put them in the 17s. Success. So that's kind of how we construct the sessions. I mean, ultimately, I tried to go away from the yellow men, the mannequins, as much as possible, and cones and poles, where, I think the American player is, you never have to ask them to work hard. You never have to ask them to give everything. They have that mentality. I think it's a real strength of the players. Where we came in and we saw it was maybe the in possession decision making aspect just wasn't at the level that we need. So we focus a lot on that. And I know, obviously, Red Bull were kind of, known for our pressing against the ball or counter pressing, which is, for us, that's training constants. You don't have to work on that. That's a given. That's our DNA. But it's really the decision-making process. And once you put the yellow men in and no opposition, then decisions are out the window. So we've really we kind of discussed as a group, and it's always discussed as a group. There's never like, you have to do that. It's, what do you think the best way for them is to learn and make decisions? Well, with opponents, okay, then by that, then you need to construct your session this way. So instead of doing a passing activity, which is, listen, there's a time and a place, never say never, but as much as we can, whether it's rondos, small positional games, whatever that may be, but decision making in there. Even the younger age groups, so you can simplify it, but we really kind of changed that from maybe where it was before. And again, we've seen some great strides with our teams in possession. And again, we believe if we do those things correctly, the teams will be successful because of that, and the 15s and the 17s, won the GA group, so they were going on, but obviously it was canceled. But their performance and the way they played was success. They just managed to win and go through. That's just a byproduct. If they hadn't of the 17s won on penalties to go through, if they'd have lost on penalties, it still would have been a success. And that's what we have to help the coaches understand. And the coach was with me, and I said, listen, if you lose this, it's still been a success before it started, to help them understand, because sometimes the wins and losses, it really kind of, it gets in the way of progress. But that's what we focus on. And controlling the controllables are performance or preparation. That's all you can control. The variables are referees, weather, opponents. You don't control them. So again, that's our mindset. Not again, everything I say doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just our opinion and our way of doing things. So
no, it's perfect. Thank you, buddy. It's always fascinating to hear how, you know, what goes into people's minds when they're obviously trying to create the best environment possible for their players. And Willow, I'm going to loop you in here. I'm curious, you know, obviously your background is well known. The ages that Sean's starting to reference, right? The 17s, the 19s, the kids that are on pro pathways and pro tracks. Can you, you know, do you recall the type of information that you received getting more specific, or challenges that you were placed upon kind of heightening in that key age? And, you know, is there anything kind of standing out to you from how coaches used to treat you, you know, in those kind of really key formative years?
I think I had a contrast. So I had the late 90s, early 2000s type of coach who was more focused on the character aspect of things, like Eric Harrison and Brian Kidd, Steve McLaren. They were good on the field with the X's and O's, but they were very much focused on developing your frame of mind, your resilience, dealing with the pressures of stepping up age groups or stepping up into the first team. And Sean, I'm going to read a quote here that kind of leads into what Tom's saying as well. Where is it? Here we go. I'll have it in 1 second. This is the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, and let's reference MLS as well. The top leagues in the world, and players need to be excellent at something, because you can't just be okay, you can't be ordinary, they can't be not bad. They've got to be wow. So when you think about what you've just asked, Tom, and some of the stuff you've referenced, Sean, when you're looking at those differentiating factors, and I would say one for me is an adaptability, and to drill down on that a little bit more, it's if you're a centre-back, understanding as a young player, you're not going to play against Peter Crouch the same way you would play against Aguero. You can't be the same centre-back in against those two different players. So when you're looking for this wow factor, and when Chris, from a first team perspective, is looking for this wow factor, this Tyler Adams type player who can make an impact in training, how do you recognize that from the 16s, 17s and upwards into the first team? And what are the KPIs you look for? Are they psychological? Obviously, there's going to be some technical, tactical ones, but what are the real differentiators that are going to make Chris and his coaching staff sit up and go, we've got to have this player in, week out. He's got to become a part of our environment.
I think you talk about adaptability, right? And as you get older, Mark, as you know, listen, talent plays such a small percentage. They've all got talent, right? In some way, shape, or form, whether it's simply winning headers, ball winning, whether it's 1v, they've all got a talent. You know, it's such a generic term, but it's the mindset. How do they train? How do they, you know, do they play like they belong? When you put somebody in a second team, and that's, you know, the story of Tyler Adams, like he played like he belonged, and his decision making, he was mature, he was focused, he was driven, he was all those things. We look for the character piece. We were in a call with Alex Englethorpe from Liverpool, and he said, talent gets you to 16, character gets you to 35. And I thought that was brilliant. And it's so true. You know what I mean? It's your lifestyle off the field, you know, sacrificing, going out with your friends and doing those things. And, you know, you say you want to be a professional. We look for the actions. Do they want to be a professional? Are they willing to do what's necessary? And then when they're put in those moments, of course they're going to fail. They're supposed to fail. How do they react? You know, do they go into their shell? Do they solve the problem? I mean, John Tolkien is a problem solver. You know, he went to first team pre-season, and he has loved, you know, he's smooth on the ball, decision making is great. There's other areas of the game he needs to work on, but he's a problem solver, and he'll be successful because of that. You know, he's adaptable, as you say, Mark. Can they adapt to the situation they're in? I mean, you know, when you went from one club to the other, it's a different coach, a different way of playing. So you have to be adaptable, you know. With youth players, we talk about, and Paul Fernie always talks about with the weapons. They're not going to be a finished product. They don't need to be a finished product. But what do they do that's special? Are they lightning quick? That's special, right? They have the endurance to close down, and, you know, do they have the brilliant basics technically? Are they brilliant at all the simple, you know? And those players make careers, you know, and just being brilliant at the basics. You know, I can control, pass, I can break up play, I can do the simple things well. And then there's other players that are just difference makers, that just do something that's special, that stands out. You're thinking, you know, he does things that can change a game, you know, and they might have some other real holes in their overall kind of makeup of how they are as a player, but difference makers can cost and can make you a lot of money. So, you know, we look for all those things, and then the things they're not great at, can we improve them? Yep, but we don't focus on that. We focus on the strengths, because they're going to get signed for their strengths, never their weaknesses.
So,
can I just quickly follow up on that? So the wow factor, Sean, can look very different, right? You referenced the simple: is your first touch impeccable? Are you competent? Are you consistent? Are you composed? When you step up to train with a first team, a manager could look at his first touch is great. He plays it simple. He gets about people. He challenges. He's not scared of any of the senior first team players when he goes into challenge. That's a wow. As opposed to a player who's technically so gifted that his awareness of time and space is brilliant. He gets on the ball. He breaks things up, scores, goal, creates. It can look very different, right? And I think the thing you're referencing is you can make a career for yourself if you know what your wow is, and if you know how to share that with decision makers within a club and showcase it.
Massively. And that's our job, is to facilitate, help guide them. I mean, ultimately, that's all we have to do, is just guide them and help make them aware. And some people, I'm sure most people are visual learners. You know, coach says, listen, you were terrible today. And I was sitting there going, yep, they all were. I agree with you. They were terrible. Because you don't think it's you. And that's how your mind goes. But then we have the beauty of the video and just showing, say, okay, well, this is what your decision, what was your thought process? Okay, what could have been a different solution? And just helping them that way and guide them. And, you know, sometimes players and coaches, definitely, we complicate something that's very, very simple. You know, if you're good at 1v1, then get yourselves in positions of isolation. And then, you know, get on the ball in areas where you can be in 1v1s more. You know, if you're somebody who's fantastic at that final pass and unlocking, you know, compact back lines, and find yourself in a little space between the back line and the midfield to get yourself in those positions more. And how do we do that? You know, creating space, occupying space, whatever that may be. So our job is just to guide them and help them understand what they are, what their strengths are. And again, can we get them to a point where it's that strong and it's that impactful that it's a pro contract versus going to college?
Perfect. It's a fascinating conversation. And, you know, we've had a lot, Mark, of making strengths super strengths, right? And the roles and responsibilities of both coaches and players in that process. Sean, again, what you said and the quote from Alex is brilliant about the importance of character. And obviously, you know, you've stressed a lot of the psychosocial aspect of a player's development. And I think for the benefit of certainly any players that listen to this, or definitely the coaches of younger players, I'm curious, the concept of deliberate roadblocks and putting hurdles and obstacles in the way of that when you are designing practices, you know, of intentionally creating a challenge for them to demonstrate maybe the resilience that you've spoken of that's so important. You opened the conversation in saying that expectations of New York Red Bull and its ability to produce players should be on a par. And we've spoken about, for me, it should be almost as difficult, if not the most difficult club in the world to play for, based on simply the volume of players around your catchment area and how densely populated, you know, the tri-state is. So that jersey probably weighs heavy, right? It's probably, you know, there is some pressure attached to that. And obviously a transition to first team football, where there's going to be fans that are paying good money and, you know, to see teams play. Can you speak about maybe what you do to help prepare players for that transition? Because I'm sure it's not, as you said, just fluffy and all about, you know, play. And at some point, they're going to have to handle the pressure that comes with the jersey. So I'm curious as to whether there are any intentional tactics that you have of putting players under a little bit of stress, or trying to find their breaking point, doing so knowing that it's going to be important for their long-term success and establishing whether or not they're going to be capable of playing the game at the next level.
we're very fortunate. We have the second team, and the second team play obviously at a high level, right, in the top kind of USL division right now. So they get to play against teams in front of fans. There's no substitute for experience, right? And it's part of our coaching methodology. We believe a player learns best and most by experiencing, not by being taught, not by showing, but by experiencing. And from that is, can you situations where, I'm sure everybody's watched the Michael Jordan or the Bulls documentary, where they put him in a team where he was up, and then put him in a team and he was down. So you put a player, one of your top talents, on the team that maybe is going to struggle, and how does he react? Does he make others around him better? You're a good player if you're a good player, but can you make others around you better? That's good to great. So there's various things you can do within the sessions. Again, putting young players in with men and having to experience the locker room, having to experience when you give the ball away, because there's less patience maybe with some pros, because they want to find out, right? You always hear the character told up to Steven Gerrard, when we ping a ball at you for new signings and see what you're made of, and make his mind up right away. And so they really getting those players into that pro level earlier and quicker is something that we're making a really conscious effort towards, and getting back to is our second team and our first team are getting them in there, right, and giving them a taste of it. As Mark said, there's players that we're just technicians. You could put in the first team and they'd be fine. In training, they wouldn't be fine. There's others who are going to struggle, and they have to go in there and they have to struggle because they have to find different solutions that they would normally get away with. Right now for us, our belief is that pushing them up earlier and having them play with and against men earlier is the most important aspect to their development. That's what we'll find out. You're going to sink or swim, right? That's exactly what you're going to find out. And they're going to fail, and we've got to keep putting them back. And again, can they be adaptable? Can they find solutions to the problems that they're learning that they've never experienced before? Because ultimately, it's very few people go in and it'll become seamless, because they're different problems. It's a different speed. It's a different look. So you're going to have to experience it in order to, again, find different solutions. That's our thought process on this, and that's how we want to challenge the players and continue to challenge them. We do a lot of inter club games where a team plays up a year or 2 years and they get thumped and they struggle and they suffer, and it's great. And we put them in those situations on purpose because they have to suffer. They have to be uncomfortable. They have to understand that this is not easy. It's difficult. To beat New York Red Bulls is difficult. To become a pro at New York Red Bulls is very, very difficult. So again, you get to find out who can really kind of find ways, and again, find solutions, and just keep themselves relevant, to keep impressing every single coach. So when Tom Shields in the conversation, we put him here, how do you do? Struggled, but then he found solutions. What the next time he came in, he adapted. He looked like he belonged. That's all you have to be in the conversations. Put yourselves in those conversations more times than enough. And again, when it comes to who do we want to sign pro, Tom, we put him in all the situations. He's risen to the challenges. For us, he's got a high ceiling. He's a pro versus going to college right away.
Perfect. Thank you, mate. Great answer. Great explanation. We've spoken a lot on what it takes for players to kind of survive and then thrive, I guess, in those environments. I'm conscious now of discussing to the coaches some advice that you might have for them, or what you look for in staff to potentially come into an environment like yours. We've obviously stressed the need for specific technical or tactical knowledge and insight, information, the ability to pass that on. But now, as the game adapts and evolves, obviously the emphasis on psychosocial proficiencies and understanding how to, make sessions harder or more, or easier when it's necessary, like to be able to tweak the paper. So I'm curious, Sean, if you could just kind of some advice to the staff. Is it time on the grass? Is it, go and learn about how players learn, go and read and listen to anecdotes about, what makes or breaks people, the quote that you shared from Alex, and obviously Willow, you've said it all the time, right? Talent will get you so far, character will define you, mentality will define you. Like for the coaches listening that might have aspirations to work in your environment, if it's 5 years away, what would you recommend them be doing based on, as we said and start the conversation with, your kind of eclectic journey to this point and what you've learned along the way?
So for me, Tom, and for our staff, we really have gotten to the point where like, all the hard work is done in your session preparation. That's where your work is done. The most important time we have is obviously on the field, but it's we need to understand that we're coaches and we're guiding them. We're not commentators. I think I was definitely guilty of this 100%. Was when you start coaching, you feel like you have to talk all the time. You feel like you have to be loud all the time versus bringing them in, talking just intimately and just chatting. And, for us, the construction of the session and the preparation should bring out whatever your objectives are. You don't need to, if you have to stop it a lot, then maybe the preparation hasn't been quite good enough, or because the sessions and activities should be player driven. It should be all the intensity is player driven. They have to hold themselves and each other accountable for every situation. Camilo Esperanza is a guy I worked at MLS Academy for a little bit, and he's such a deep thinker. And he said, research has told us we should never ever mention a negative. Never. He said the art of being wise is knowing what to overlook, and it was against the way I used to do things, and it's so correct. Like, you really want to have an impact, it might be the same situation, just don't mention the negative and absolutely highlight the positive. And it's just watch the brain go and watch the player's shoulders go back, chest out versus the opposite, and it doesn't matter how mentally strong players are. I mean, they'll get enough of that when they get to the older age groups and pro levels, but how can we build that relationship, right? And one of the biggest things for us is when I look at coaches, are you relatable? Like, I don't want a U12 coach that wants to be the U19 coach. I want the best U12 coach. And I want a coach who wants to be the U12 coach. Right, and we're very fortunate. We have one who's fantastic. He probably wants to move up. He'll probably call me and say, "I want to move up after this." But ultimately, he's just excellent. He's so relatable, and he's, and it's a great fit for that age group. And different coaches fit into different age groups, in my opinion. They have different assets and attributes, but it's just, can you build that trust with them, and they'll stay with you taking grenades, and that's what you want. You want players. That's how they'll accelerate their development, by wanting to do more for any of the coaches, right? For trusting that they have their best interest on and off the field. In my opinion, there's no substitute for that. You just be personable, be genuine, be humble. We want coaches who are confident, Tom, but you have to be humble. Everybody's read the New Zealand All Blacks, the Legacy book, and I'm not going to say it, but that's how we are. We have no time for egos. We have no time for big time charities, either players or staff. It's just, again, humility is key. And again, you work hard and you're dedicated and you're professional, but, we prepare properly. You have the knowledge. Everybody, especially now during this time, everybody's done a lot of personal development and really looked into some really thought-provoking ideas and how we can change things. But personally, like, the game is not that complicated. If you can have youth players, especially, they're gonna work hard. Is, can we help them with their decision-making process? I'm a big believer, the more good decisions they make, better player you are. Right? And it's as simple as that. And if you can make those good decisions, you can learn from your I don't want to say failures, but yeah, success comes with failure. So then you fix it, then you adapt, and you've shown you have a growth mindset. You've shown the ability that your learning capacity is high. There's some players that just won't get it, and they're not gonna last very long. It's tough for those players. But again, for us, we've kind of 30 players in 7 or 8 months. We kind of moved on, something like that, 25, 30 players, because we just want the top ones together. The other players that are either not going to play don't need to be here. Go somewhere else and play, and they might come back. Absolutely, it's happened numerous occasions. So, we want an environment where everybody is challenging each other. They're trying to move each other out of the way. I love it. Again, big Liverpool fan. So the Gerard is, I'm going to training every day. I'm going to be the best player in training. I'm going to move who's my way. I'm going to move him out of the way. As they get older, that's the mentality. It's just, and that's what Tyler Adams had. They say Tyler Adams was just so focused, so driven, knew what he wanted, and nothing was going to get in his way.
Brilliant. Thank you. You've mentioned humility. I'm curious, again, tapping into your history a little bit. have you found yourself in a situation yet, either in Arizona or obviously in New Jersey, where you wish you had known something, wish you'd experienced something in your, in your history to that point to help you prepare for an experience that you kind of dealt with? So is there something that you wish you knew that you didn't in a certain time? And if so, what would it be? Again, just kind of stressing the importance of being humble enough to reflect and say, okay, I hold my hands up, I could have done this better or learned that. And then obviously from an education perspective to the coaches, just maybe something that you hadn't appreciated would become so important later in your life or whatever it may have been.
To answer your question, every single day I have that experience. It's so true. We're in an environment we empower our coaches. Everybody's opinion is equal. It has to be that way. Again, for me, you get the old rowing thing. Everybody's rowing, but the one guy's up, talking with the speaker. How about you get an oar, pal? Get an oar, we'll go quicker. It's get in there together. And so lots of examples. I mean, you talk about, I wish I had have known earlier that I was in the business of developing individuals. I wish I had have known earlier. I was driven by winning and coaching teams to win, and made wrong decisions for other players based on wanting to win a game. Of course, we're competitive. We're coaches. The players want to win. Parents definitely want to win. But ultimately, as I kind of progressed, and it just made me think that, and I would be too emotional and I'd be too into it. As I just, one of my mentors, Lee Martin, he said the best thing, and I can't swear, but he's one of the best things in the world to me. One time at a game, it was a regionals or something, and we're 5 minutes into our first group game, and I'm up there and I'm ranting and raving, and he goes, "Sean, shut up and sit down." I kind of taken aback a little bit, and I kind of sat down next to him, and he said, "How do you think they feel? It's regionals, it's the first game. It's just let them get into it. Just relax. Just shut up. Watch the game, observe." And it was just, I became almost like a cheerleader or a commentator, and ultimately I really learned, and I've tried to teach other coaches that have worked with this is, our U15 coach, Jonathan Rhodes, says, it's like on game day, you're their biggest supporter. You've done all the work. They don't need somebody else against them. They've got another team against them, another coach against them, and maybe sometimes the referee against them. They don't need you against them. And it's just understanding that what's the bigger picture? What's the ultimate objective? What's the desired outcome? And then just keeping the emotional control and emotional intelligence in check. And if you've got really objectives set beforehand, which again, I wasn't prepared enough, I didn't plan, try and win it, and if you've got good players, you get away with it. And that's the problem as a coach. And that's what then builds an ego. And you think you're a better coach than you are because your team's winning, but ultimately you're not doing them a service. I experienced that massively. So it was humbling for people to put you in check and not be afraid to tell you things. And I believe that environment, that culture is essential. We had it at Delco, and we had that with MLS Academy. Was fantastic. We got to build that kind of from the start, with no players, no coaches, which was great. Just that culture of not having to be right. It's okay. I mean, just because me and you don't agree doesn't mean I'm wrong or you're wrong. And it's just, again, for me, that humility piece and understanding you don't have all the answers, you don't have all the solutions. There's no right way. I mean, I know I've talked to you and I've talked to Mark a lot of times about there's no right way of playing. It's just your opinion of what's the right way of playing. And we have our philosophy and the way we want to play and things we want to get better at and with the players. But it's being humble enough to be wrong and learn from them. And again, you're supposed to get wrong. Again, just because you're an academy director, whether it's at Delco or now New York Red Bulls, I'm still going to get stuff wrong. Of course I am. But I'm going to learn from the experiences, and I'm going to try not to make them again.
I think, Sean, just jumping in here, you talk about something that and we've had a lot of conversations about this. You're referencing something I think the best managers do well, and they provide that psychological safety on game day for players. And they do it, and I was reading about something called psychological stamina, whatever you want to call it. It can look like resilience, but you build that in practice. Practice should be harder than games. And when I think back to some of my hardest games, they were behind closed doors on a Thursday when I'm lining up against the first team. and the first team players are lining up against people challenging them for their place, whether that was United, Middlesbrough, Doncaster, Dallas. I've been in some of those games that were like, you come off and you're like, wow, am I going to recover in time for Saturday? and those types of games, that's when the manager can start to prod and poke and press a few buttons to test you and prepare you for Saturday. He's not going to do it out there in the public eye. When you're on the sideline, when there's another coach there and a set of players there behind them and fans there, that's not the place and time to test your players psychologically, to test their patience, to test their will. That's the most dangerous time to test it, because you can lose or can create issues, psychological problems, you know, resistance to what you want. So for me, with your staff, is there an element of focusing on making practice harder than the games you actually play, with the purpose of building that psychological stamina, that psychological safety? So when game day comes, you're almost sat there going, yeah, it's your turn. Go and show me what you're capable of. Go and show me what you can do.
Mark, that's exactly it. That's our process throughout the week, and it is absolutely that. Is that the training is, the activities should be competitive, right? You can put point system on them to try and help maybe that, and you know, so it doesn't matter what you do. Somebody says it's a rondo, and okay, well, there's a point system. You're focused in more. You're working a little bit harder, right? That's just natural human nature. So, but ultimately for us, that's exactly it. I mean, the training, and again, making it player driven, and just they create the intensity. When we first came in pre-season, you know, again, you don't have to ask them to work hard, but it was a transition after. There's too many transitions because it was going 100 miles an hour to 120, whereas we kind of really, and this is one of Chris Armas, go 100 to 70, like in the moments, you know, in the finishing moments, go 100 to 70. And if you look at our first team's first game against Cincinnati, the first goal was Kyle Duncan, you know, just slow down, take a touch, little dink. Danny Royer at the end, slow down, take a touch, another touch, another. And it's just teaching our players that you have to be able to go from 100 to 70. And Chris was at Leipzig with Julian Nagelsmann. It's one of the things he said. He said, you know, too many one touch. You know, just take minimum of two, and everything becomes better, more consistent. And it's just for the youth players understanding that the work hard and the breathing. So you can't make good decisions with those breathing patterns. It's impossible. You know, just take a breath, just relax. You know, and I think Pirlo he's the same facial expression if he's going to war or if he's receiving a ball. It's just relaxed and under control, because the mind's doing the work. All the work's been done before with the, you know, what am I thinking before, during, after? Am I always engaged? And the mind's going quickly, but the body has to be relaxed. The body has to be under control. And that was big for us, is getting the players to understand that just slow down. There's a change of tempo that's necessary. You know, there's moments when you want to win it and go, absolutely, let's go direct. Let's be vertical. Let's have minimal width. Let's just go. But there's also times where you can't. You know, and it's helping them understand in those moments where we can't. Okay, well, what now? There's no space to play in behind, so what now? Okay, then we have to move them. We have to manipulate them. We have to, you know, draw them out. There's solutions to every problem, and it's helping them understand some of those. And the biggest thing, Mark, is the why. Like, why are you making that decision? Well, just, you know, he might have had a great thought. Didn't come off. Okay, great. End of conversation. But maybe if it's not, then we have to, okay, well, what about this? What about this? So just provoking, you know.
Brilliant. Sean, last question from me. And then if there are people that are listening that kind of want to jump in, I think you've answered one part of it in regards to what coaches need, which is the kind of the relatability and the humility kind of aspect and ability to look specifically. But where do you see the game going in the next 5 to 10 years? And the youth coaches right now, you know, if you could implore them to emphasize, you know, one or two specific characteristics, proficiencies, competencies in their players, what would it be so that they could be prepared to step into an environment like yours, if not now, in the future?
So one of the best things I ever was taught and learned was, you know, as coaches, we missed the game, right? And again, it was Camilo at Barca. He said, if you're coaching the player on the ball, you failed already. because if you're coaching the player on the ball, number one, you're taking away his 2.5 to 3 minutes if he's really good of decision making, of moments in a game when you're so, this is your kind of the blinkers on, you're so narrow kind of focused here that you're missing the game. And if we have tried, and it's difficult, but this is something that's huge in our coaching methodology and how we do things, is like, catch yourself. If you coach the player on the ball, like, shit, that's no, because what's most important is what are they doing for the other 87 minutes. Their movements, their positioning, their creation and occupation of space, their, we call them the victim runs to take players away and create space for the player. There's just so much important work being done off the ball that if you're only focused on the player and the ball, you're missing the game. You're missing training. And that simple little discussion that I had and was given to me, it changed my way of thinking as a coach. Completely changed how I looked at a training session, an activity, and certainly a game. That was huge, and it's something we're trying to obviously instill in our coaches, and again, continue with the positives, right, and really focus on the positives. For us, when you look at coaches, is empower players to be brave, courageous, and it's a massive part of how we play and what we want. Whether it's centre backs driving into midfield to commit and break lines, whether it's the number 10 to get in the red zone and drive and commit, create overloads, or that fullback, really bombing on, getting forward, just constantly being involved in the attack. So being brave and courageous is massive for us. And I think when you empower players and you trust them and you reiterate the positive aspects of it, you just get more. You just get more from them. They're willing to do more. The coaching is the ability to have the players want to do more for you, to have the players want to do more and go above and beyond for themselves, their teammates, and for if they want to do it for you as a coach. I think that's success, because they trust you and they respect you and they know that you have their best interests. And again, has to be off the field as well and genuine. How's the family? What's going on? Those conversations are imperative for building relationships. And again, I'm always referencing Liverpool, but Jurgen Klopp says that's all life is. Life is relationships, and coaching is relationships. Whether it's staff, players, managing down, being managed, it's all about relationships. So getting people to genuinely trust you and having genuine interest and care for their best interests, I believe a coach will go far with that. And with that, then that brings humility. And humility is a growth mindset, willing to learn, willing to be wrong, willing to understand it's forever changing, what your thoughts were maybe last year, maybe it's slightly different this year. And so for me, understanding that you don't know it all, right? None of us do. We're so far from it, it's unbelievable. And just wanting to learn, wanting to grow. And like, I love the conversations we have, and with Mark, and because you provoke each other. Like, I love provoking each other and getting, well, I didn't think of that actually. Or even if I agree with you, I'm going to pretend not to see what you say and see if you stand by it. You know what I mean? Just things like that. It's just, again, it's, we're all adults here and we want to learn, and we're never right or wrong. Live by the old, listen, just because we don't agree doesn't mean you're wrong, doesn't mean I'm wrong either.
It's funny, just kind of lastly on that point, when you referenced, and we've spoke about this a lot, coaching the 87 minutes without the ball. How do you set up your practice? Let's say you're coaching a 6 and you want to design a practice around him. It's almost better to reverse engineer and go, right, who are the people that affect his success on the ball? If I focus on him from his perspective, I might not get the success I want, because if I don't coach the options for him to utilize his technique and to utilize his game intelligence, then what are my KPIs? How can I measure his success if I'm not setting up the collective or the team to complement what he does with the ball? And it's Xavi's point, right? Players off the ball make the man on the ball. If I didn't have Dani Alves making runs, and Messi and all of the other players that I've played over the years for him, I can't showcase my ability, can't showcase my talent, because I've got no options. So it was just a fascinating point you made to me a couple of times, and made me really conscious of working hard to focus on all of the moments off and away from the ball to help the player on the ball.
Everybody has a purpose in every activity. It's the engagement and understanding your role, trusting your teammates and their role, and knowing that your moment will come. not how often you're on the ball, it's what you do when you're on the ball, right? You know, center forward touches it 5 times, scores 2 goals, 10 out of 10, boom, done, right? And that's what's talking about a role and responsibility. Your responsibility to score goals. That's it. Everything else is great. That's fantastic. But that's your number one objective, whether you're a youth player, whether you're a professional, and it's one of the hardest things to do in the game. But just trusting teammates. One of the things at Barcelona was the forward touched the ball the least amount of times of all the players in the build-up, and it was just this such positional discipline was unbelievable. You know, you talk about, like, Henri had a great story. We wanted to stay out there, and he's drifting all over the place, scored a goal, took him off at halftime. It's a great story. He goes, I thought I played well, but it's just, this is the way we do things. You have to stay there because that's for Andres Iniesta. And I just thought, even at that level, that this discipline, that trust, you know, that what you're doing helps the team, you know, at that level. So a constant engagement, and just, again, is the light bulb always on? You know, when you look at players' faces and you're watching, is the light bulb always on? And if it is, you're like, all right, he's got a chance.
Sean, it's fascinating conversation, and as Mark said a few times, it's always such a pleasure to engage in it with you. I think the thing for me that just stands out is all the different facets that you're attending to, all the different layers of information that you're looking for from staff and from players, and responses in certain situations. I think it's a really great example of kind of attention to detail, but in a really broad spectrum of things as well. So I really do appreciate the insight. I have just typed to those that are with us live now. Again, we find ourselves fortunately saying this quite a lot, but you don't have the opportunity to ask a question to Sean every day. If you do have one that you would like to kind of ask and pose to him, please do so. We have said that there's an absolute hard stop in about 10 minutes, just to be respectful of the rest of his day. But you know, I know me and Mark can speak all day, and we have done a few times, but I do want to just provide that opportunity for you. So if you are here live, please do make the most of it. But no, we'll wait and see, Sean, if anything does come through. But
I've got a quick one. It's just a question on self-reflection piece, Sean, with your staff. I'm a big believer in how you self-reflect post-practice, post-session, post-game. And I used to start with, why did this go wrong? Why did we get that right? Rather than, what did I set out to do? And did I achieve it? So I used to always go to the why and get lost in that, because I hadn't thought about, well, what did I plan to do in the first place? And then a process of being told what I was getting wrong a lot, and trial and error and failing, led me to, well, okay, if I'm going to design a practice, this is what I want the outcome to be. And then I need to start, when I'm dissecting it, with, what did I set out to do and did I achieve it? Then why? So what do you do for your staff?
I think for training sessions, the self-reflection piece is always, you know, objectives, were they met? That's as simple as that. You know, to simplify, what was the objective? It was to get, you know, Mark Wilson being able to break pressure, and by that, working with the 210s to be able to stay high and progress. So that's my objective for this session, is for the midfield trio to understand their roles in the build-up phase, right? Simple as that. Right, but I know I'm focusing on you. The back four think they're working on building out of the back. I think it's on them. But ultimately, it's helping them understand is, okay, well, do they understand the why? In this situation, we do this, and this is why. You know, we go high because that creates space, a little diagonal ball to break for the 6. Does the 6 understand that he needs to stay away to allow the center back to go? So those things, if you see those moments, and they just a couple of instances, and for me, that's success. I mean, if a 90-minute session, just a few moments, you know, like, yeah, we got it, you know, we understood it. And so it's the preparation always is the key, as you know, Mark. And so you're preparing, and there's clarity in your desired outcome. Then there should be clarity in your, did you meet the objectives? It won't always be a yes, of course. But then you have to self, okay, well, why? Then it's the why. Well, why didn't it? Well, you know what? I had our best pressing player against him. He just stood next to him the whole time, like a jackass, ruined the bloody activity. He's that guy just stands next to you all day. Piss off, you know. So, you know what, that's not realistic. It's not going to, so maybe I need to change that. Maybe it's a player going against them. Maybe it's the formation I put against them that wasn't correct. Like too many attacking midfielders against our lone six, for example. So reflecting that way in the games, you know, there's always the post-game reports and you reflect on, you know, you document it, you write it down, you type it in and you look at it. It's always, for me, it's always, I think it's research. If you write it down, you document it, you have it, you're going to spend more time on it. It's going to provide more clarity. So we put a process in place where there's your pregame presentation, all the work that's done, scouting, whatever, and then afterwards is your post-game, your report, your reflection, and who's the high performers and the team that week. Maybe that block we're really focusing on playing through the thirds, or option 8, did that come out? You know, that was our game plan. You know, so those things, just clarity in the objectives, I think provides clarity then on, you know, did the outcome happen?
Brilliant. Thank you, mate. Just last question. There's one here from Alex, and it's more, I guess it's more around the academy at the moment, but how is the pandemic affecting plans for next season? So, you know, tryouts for the Red Bulls, what's that process, and how has it affected your season right now? I guess it's the same as everywhere else. So like, what's the plans for players that have aspirations to come into the program?
Yeah, I mean, listen, for us, we're fortunate with a lot of video. We had a lot of players in our database that we looked at. And so probably about maybe 2-3 weeks ago, we finalized our rosters for next year. You know, Tom, as you know, we moved some players on, and we had some players join other clubs to make sure they're getting playing time to continue the development. So for us, we've gone really small rosters. You know, the 17s had something stupid like 24. You know, so we've gone like an 18 max on every squad. Some have 16 right now, one is 15. But I don't care. We just want the players in that are good enough, and we'll bring players in that are, you know, at a later date, or the players that are there will play more, which is the ultimate reason. You know, we want the top ones to play more minutes. So the trial process, I mean, we have a scouting department, and it's anybody that's interested simply fills out a type form. It's on the website, and then obviously we'll do our due diligence and find out what type of player you are, is there video, and if there's an opportunity to bring you in preseason. Again, we have a real systematic approach to it and stick to that for that reason. You know, we'll not be doing tryouts. I mean, your MLS Academy should be doing tryouts. We have a scouting department, so you know there'll be no tryouts as such. There's more of a scouting and player identification process, and then only the players that we, after doing our due diligence, that we think are good enough to even come in and train, will be brought in. When I first came, it was too easy, Tom. Anybody could come in the trial, and it has to be difficult. It has to be, and again, we weren't maybe in a position, staff or resources wise, to have it set up correctly, but we do now.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Sean, we will cut it there. Again, we opened the conversation with just an interlude to how grateful we were going to be for this, and how fortunate people were that have been able to tune in. We're going to be, based on the information you had to share. It was fantastic. I greatly appreciate that. First and foremost, your time, but also obviously the insight that you've been able to offer. I think for coaches and for players that listen now or on demand, it really is a tremendous insight and education. So thank you ever so much, my friend.
My pleasure, Tom. Anytime. Appreciate it. Just get me on. I much appreciate you.
For those that are with us now, obviously, you'll have noticed this week we have kind of tapered things back a little bit, just as, you know, clubs across the country start their return to play protocols. And obviously, you know, I will be back on the grass. Mark will be floating around on fields all over the place. So we are tapering back, but this is a great example of the type of exclusive education that we want to be able to offer to those that stick with us. So 1 or 2 a week from this point forward. Obviously, maybe not all with the same depth of background that Sean has, but the same type of fascinating insight and conversation nonetheless. So thank you again, everybody who joined us now, and everybody who's watched on demand. And we look forward to seeing you with us again in the future. Just please check social media for updates, and yeah, we'll look forward to hosting you again soon. Thanks, everybody.